Paul's brother is coming.
That's what I heard. Paul was talking to him last week, and he put Paul said, well, I need to know if you can commit so I can get back to Shaylee. And Jeff said, I've already coordinated it with her. It was like,
I don't need it.
oh, July, right? July. Yeah, he does a good job. He's kind of a dry humor, and he's just a very good singer. So yeah. Yeah, so I think it'll be good. Paul's going to use him we're doing a steak activity, and he's doing a Grammy night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he did an Oscar night last year. This year it's going to be Grammys, and he's going to do how Jimmy Fallon does the singing show or whatever it is. I can't remember. So Paul's been, yes, yeah. So he's been watching that to get ideas, and he's gonna do like karaoke, but it's just gonna be 1 minute, not like the whole song. And then kind of like a name that tune type thing. And so Jeff is coming and he'll probably do that part of it. And then he's going to have different people perform like in our steak. So it's going to be fun.
That's so cool.
But yeah, the Oscar thing was awesome. He had Jeff Ropalato that does that haunted house. He had him do all the digital stuff. So as they walked into the steak center, there was all these digital, and there were 2 Oscars spinning on both sides of the stage up on the wall. Yeah, it was really cool. Let me see if I can find it, but because I did a picture of it. We covered all the tables with black tablecloths, and the chairs we covered with black fabric. And then we had a thing of popcorn sitting in the middle. It was a lot of work. It was on our anniversary. That's how I remember it, because I was like, that's how we spent our anniversary. But let's see here. I was just looking at it the other day. What was Tia doing? Because I'm sure say what her symptoms were.
But it's going around again.
Now it's actually, you can see when he has it.
No, but
I don't want it.
I will go
I'm gonna babysit for him.
oh yeah, no, we definitely don't want to get that emergency care system. I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah, it is.
Does anybody want to give me their names now?
I was just watching it the other day.
Did you sign them? I'm not signing. I haven't signed in the last 2 years.
Serious?
Yeah. You remember, you were in that meeting.
Let me ask our attorney what happens.
Ask an elected official doesn't sign an ethics pledge, but still has laws that says what he can and can't do, including code of ethics.
We'll get there in the training.
He tells me really that.
Yeah. Where's Brandon?
He's not here tonight.
Ever read our little policy
Just push him
manual
over.
that they have
Take him
a-
off. There you go.
I'm Lance.
Oh, you're Lance.
You go.
Paul Stern. You'll get that.
Are there monitors showing what they're supposed to be showing?
I don't.
Fire. This one isn't either.
Well, yes.
The TV's working.
If it's not working, just turn it off.
We're out.
It says it's on. I'm gonna turn it off. Turn it back on. When I find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, do it.
Because I think you have your thing. I just saw it the other day.
I want to see it because I know I can picture it, but I want to actually see it.
It was super,
And he's gonna do that with the
So,
grandkids.
yeah.
RM.
I think so. I think he said he can probably.
Yes,
do
it does.
something, But it was.
It
like,
does.
when we did that
I looked it
movie
up
thing,
after your email.
Like it was,
See,
he had actual
online, I
clips
looked it up
from
and
the
it said
movies.
agriculture.
That's
Like,
what
it
its
came up on
current
the
zone
screen and
is.
he did it like a
Projected land
video
use
type
is
thing
RM.
now. And it was,
Which-
it was really cool, like he just.
That was a
he took
debate that
it
went
from
back and
movies.
forth.
It was
I can't believe-
unbelievable.
Prior to this general plan, it showed commercial.
Commercial, which kind of should be.
I don't know why I'm having such. a
Prior
hard
to
time
this
finding
general
it.
plan, it showed as commercial.
Is it funny?
And then this general
Yes.
plan, but moved it into RM.
Okay. Just making sure.
You may want to hit recording before the prayer.
I do. Isn't that funny?
Is this what you're?
I have it in my head, Paul.
That I start the
Well,
recording.
I'm just telling you, just
And
hit it
takes
down.
like minutes.
Oh, see, we heard it.
That's because I started it earlier and then put it on
It
pause.
takes that long.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
At this point, you probably just mute, right? If it's a
Yeah,
recording.
because it's twice it's done that, where I've started the recording and then like 30 seconds a minute later. What do you think about this?
Syracuse is one.
I don't know that I have it. in.
Embarrassing, so.
I've always thought it shouldn't be commercial. Residential.
I have no way. I have no way.
What?
That was rude.
Joe won't do it.
Shaylee's number. I don't have her as a contact.
It's a test. I mean, it was her test.
Five 503 9348.
Oh, wow, it's up on the screen, so it would just change and do different.
Or 6 o'clock.
I have to stay.
Okay,
It's just a statement.
let's get started. We'd like to welcome everyone to South Weaver City Council meeting tonight. Today it is 6 P.M. on Tuesday, February the 13th, 2024. We'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. And this will have to prayer by Councilman Beals. Follow me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kind and most gracious Heavenly Father, we're grateful that we could come here today and do the business of this city, that we can listen to the issues that are presented before us and hopefully make sound judgments. Please bless, Father, that
our minds and thoughts will be quickened enough so that we can look both to what we're doing now and what the city needs in the future. And this we pray for humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, we'll begin this evening with public comments. If you've got a comment, we'd ask that you come up to the podium and state your name and your city, and you'll be given 3 minutes to give your remarks and direct your remarks to the council.
Come on, Michael.
Yeah.
Come on, chop, chop.
Thank you, Michael.
Paul, this is counting part of your time.
Yeah. Time ticking.
I have to say my name. Paul Stern, South Weaver City. My public comments tonight are on agenda item 5, packet pages 27 to 42 and 121. You can read the agenda item listing that are in the boxes. It's on the Cooper's Landing development concept. And developer wants initial conversation. Developer is currently looking to purchase a property and doing due diligence. My comments. The proposal presented is very reminiscent of a similar development that was proposed to be built due south of the car wash for light industrial businesses. That proposal was panned by both the city and local residents and did not move forward. Number 2, permitting, zoning, and enforcement. As a reminder, the Cooper's Landing proposed development will require not only a development agreement, but also a conditional use permit. Since this is a commercial development, the conditional use permit, as per a recent city council vote, is a purview of the city council for consideration / approval. C, also, since this would be the first true flex commercial development in South Weaver City, and we do not have current regulations for this type of development, I urge both the Planning Commission and the City Council to proceed very cautiously with this new building concept for the city. As we have learned from the past, once the city permits a certain type of development for one development, it must allow other developers the same right, whether it truly fits or not. D, please have the developer explain what he means by the term condo minimize these units. There are multiple definitions online. How would the city control these types of usage as established by a conditional permit? This is particularly true where there are multiple owners proposed with a varied assortment of uses, both commercial and private. Who would be responsible for compliance? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Michael Grant, 2622, the Urban Drive. So I see that the new developments are still coming to the city council. My understanding is at some point, the state wants these approvals of new parcels or rezoning go to planning commission. Is that true? Is it already in effect? And if it's not in effect, when is that going to be in effect? Would the city council have any say in it, or within 2 weeks, the planning commission has to decide and approve it or disapprove it? That's one. Second question is, when do you think we will have to be working on general plan? This year or 2025 or even later? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move to the next item. We got a couple of presentations. We've got Ashley Young from Davis County Animal Care, and we'll turn some time to her.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Ashley Young. I am the Director of Animal Care of Davis County. And I'm just here for a short 10-minute presentation update on what animal care has been up to in 2023 and kind of what we're looking towards in 2024. And I do have with me today my field supervisor, Alex Lindberg. He's learning a little bit about government and city council meetings and work sessions and all that fun stuff. So he's here with me tonight. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn your attention to our little presentation that we put together in just a minute. next page here. So just as a reminder, Animal Care of Davis County is our only animal shelter in the entire county. We serve all 15 of our cities. We have 3 primary goals at Animal Care of Davis County. The first is to serve and educate our community. The second is to find homes for our homeless pets. And our third is to support public safety. One of the big changes that we made in 2023 involved our hours. It was really important to our team that we were more available to the public, the people that we serve. And so with that, we added in a Saturday where we're open to the public every single Saturday from noon to 4. This year in 2024, we hope to expand that to an entire day because it has been so well received and we're so busy with adoptions, microchip appointments, all the services that we provide. Our general facilities open 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, and then our animal control officers, something that a lot of our cities aren't aware of, are available 7 days a week. So they work 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day of the week. They're available to our citizens. All they have to do is give us a call. And then we're also available after hours. So at 3 a.m. someone hits a dog on the road, God forbid, our officers respond out to that. All they have to do is call into Davis Dispatch and they'll respond out with one of our officers. So we really worked this last year to improve our availability to the public. So that's some feedback that we got from our cities and also our citizens. So we're going to talk a little bit about numbers because we really focus our agenda and our plans and where we're moving based on our numbers. Some really interesting numbers for 22 versus 23. So look at our dog intake in 2022. We took in 951 dogs. Last year, that number jumped a huge amount to over 1,700 dogs. This is something that's being seen nationwide. It's not specific to Davis County or even Utah, but it's some really interesting data and it really hurt our team last year. We were just struggling to house these dogs and get them back out into adoptive homes.
Were they corgis? Because I think most people like them, think they're cute, but then when they get them home.
There are a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, not corgis, unfortunately. We can definitely find placement for those really quick. But with this number, a lot of the nation is kind of blaming this on COVID, the effect of COVID. A lot of people brought home dogs, they're returning to work, and then at that point, they're not able to care for them anymore and turning them into the shelter. We ask every single person who brings us a pet why they're bringing us a pet because data is so important to us. And what we're finding is a lot of people are using housing options that allow pets in our community. And so that's something that we're very, very in tune to right now. And we're working with some nonprofits, actually in Salt Lake County, to help make options available, whether that be paying pet deposits, talking with landlords, different options that there are there. You can see our cat numbers stayed pretty much the same, and we've seen that over the last few years. Our cat population, we are doing a lot of spay and neuter, but those numbers are staying pretty much the same. So our live release rate, does anyone here know what that means? The percentage of animals that leave our facility alive. This is the most important number to our community. This is something that if you're interacting and talking about our municipal animal shelter, usually the first question you're going to get, is it a no-kill shelter? The question when we're talking about Animal Care of Davis County, the answer is yes to that. We are a no-kill shelter, but you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, there's 2 little rings and it says socially conscious animal shelter down there. That's how we advertise ourselves at Animal Care of Davis County because it is really important to us that we're making ethical, humane placement options for the members of our community, but also the pets, making sure that we're being responsible in that way. But even being a socially conscious animal shelter, our live release rate is over that 90% threshold that makes us a no-kill animal shelter. So in 2023, 94% of the pets that entered our shelter left alive. And last year we took in over 4,000 animals. So most of the animals are living very, very positive outcomes. Okay, so our officer numbers. Our officers, we have 10 full-time officers, and last year in 2023, they responded to 9,440 calls. We had 993 returned to owners. So that means our officers picked up someone's pet out in the field that was running loose, and then we were able to drive that pet back home to where it lived because of a collar or a microchip. We did perform 1,808 adoptions. So that's where we take in the animal, can't find an owner, and place it with a new family. You usually think of our dogs and cats in that, but we also adopted out 23 birds and 56 other species. So that's reptiles, rabbits, things like that. If it's a pet, we take it in, including fish. We've had fish brought into us, which is kind of something you don't really think about. So that's what our kind of landscape last year looked like in 2020. Okay, this is gonna get tricky. So there's a fun little button I'm supposed to push that takes me right to South Weaver. So we're not gonna look at all the other city statistics, although it might make South Weaver residents feel really good about themselves, because you guys are doing really well.
at it.
I did too.
We were the lowest, I think. County.
28 cat bites. That's what it said. It said 28.
So this is South Weaver specific numbers that our animal control officers have responded out to. We are grateful for South Weaver. So all the other cities are on here, so you can see that South Weaver is doing excellent. But you guys had 0 cat bites. 2 dog bites though. We did pick up 23 strays out of Weaver, so that's our officers coming out into South Weaver and picking up those stray animals. The stray OTC number, that is South Weaver residents coming up to our facility and dropping them off at our front desk. So that is an interesting number there. Your other highest calls were nuisances, 5 of which were barking, but that's like when our officers are responding to off-leash dogs. We see that quite a bit out here in South Weaver. But otherwise pretty quiet, which we like. The investigations at 11 are usually neglect, cruelty, so maybe a neighbor called in for a welfare concern, something along those lines. Cat bites. Definitely look at Layton's numbers. I mean, they're a huge city, but they'll make you feel really good. Okay, here's our spay neuter information. That's what we're going to go over next. Oh, did I skip vaccines? No, it's the next one. I'm pushing all the buttons. It's getting upset. So state law in Utah requires that we spay neuter every single animal that we have adopted out of our facility. That's something that we have to provide. So in 2023, we did provide spay neuter services to 2,005 animals, which makes sense because we adopted out about 1,800. We also have a really robust trap neuter return program, which accounts for some of those spay neuters. We did 91 procedures in-house, which is a really big deal for us. Previous to last year, we have not been able to do any spay neuter procedures in our physical building. They've all been outsourced to other organizations. And we're driving all the way from Cache County up to Orem to get surgery for these animals. So the ability to do it in-house is a huge cost savings to our organization and the direction that we're headed. We do have 2 contract veterinarians on our staff that make sure all the pets are healthy before they go up for adoption, rabies vaccines, all that good stuff. Okay, talking about our facility, this is the big one. So this has been my project since 2021 that I've kind of been working on and striving towards. We've completed a very robust feasibility study. We've done a geotechnical survey up on the property that we're on. The property we're on, the county owns it. It's about 12 acres up the hill. We are currently in the process. We have finished RFPs that are done for architect and construction. They're in the final stages, and we're expecting for those to go out by the end of February to hire on some people to begin construction and planning for our new shelter facility. Again, this is a $15 million project. We're going from an 11,000 square foot building to a 32,000 square foot building, which is very much needed for the population of animals that we're bringing in. The big question, who's paying for it? The county is. We're paying for it out of some savings that we have because it is such a much needed project. The commissioners really feel strongly about, and I do as well. Our current facility was built about 50 years ago when the model for animal control was catch and kill. We weren't holding animals long term. We weren't providing medical care, behavior management. If someone didn't come for them, they were put to sleep. And that's just not what our community supports anymore. So this has a little diagram of where our current shelter is and where we're thinking for the new shelter. And as I said, we finished the geotechnical survey on that. We're good to build there. It's county-owned property. We do intend to stay on site while that build is going on, and it's going to be pretty tight and hectic for quite a while, but we're up for the challenge. And with that feasibility study that we started in 2021, we have completed 57 of the 79 recommendations from that feasibility study and really ramped up our operations and making sure we're doing things right. And the last of those feasibility study items really pertain to the build of the new building. So we're waiting on those until we get our piece through. And then with that, I'm open to any questions or thoughts or feedback that you've heard from the public.
Anyone have questions?
A question on one of your programs. I just saw today that you are doing free shipping. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's a microchip slide somewhere in there. We are doing free microchips. We did it last year in 2023, and we're doing free microchips this year in 2024. It's a grant funded program. So as long as we have the funding available this year, it's funded by Best Friends. As long as we have that funding available, we will run that program. We also do monthly free or low cost vaccine clinics. And we're vaccinating about 100 dogs and cats every single month for absolutely free. And the microchip helps us on the back end as well. So if we pick up that animal, it now has ID, even if we get that owner. And I do have to throw out a plug right here. We haven't been out to South Weaver. We need an indoor facility. So if you know of anywhere where we can run 100 dogs through, please let us know. I see new hardwood. But yes, we are. Any Davis County resident can come up to the shelter. It does require an appointment, so we can get some staff time.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been well received, that's for sure.
How many employees at the center or at the
Total, I'm 38.
38? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Ashley, appreciate you coming out.
Oh, I did have a question.
Oh,
I know, I'm so sorry. Ashley, I'm sorry. I thought it escaped me. So the new building, when are you, so you're putting out RFPs, but what are you hoping your anticipated completion date would be?
So that is really up in the air. So with the RFPs, we were expecting these to be out like December. I'd say maybe before December. So I was just talking with Wayne, our facilities manager. He estimates that it takes approximately 5 months to just get through this RFP process because we have to bring it to a committee and decide on companies to go with, and there's a lot of steps in there. So we're hoping that we will break ground this year in 2024. I would guess it would be towards the end of the year, and then 2 years to build, probably.
Okay, awesome.
It's a while out.
Okay.
But it's like this bright shining star that we're looking towards.
Hey, I actually have a
Awesome.
question
Thank
for
you.
you. About 4.5 years ago, I took my team out to that facility and we did like a community service and basically took the dogs for a walk, basically. Do you guys still allow activities like that?
Yeah, we have a very robust volunteer program. We actually got the user poll award last year for a volunteer program. We're the first ones in this county to receive that. So we do absolutely allow, you can take dogs out for the day, you can rent them, just show up and like, take a dog out like a movie rental. Or you can coordinate something with our team and
But it's
actually
free.
come to the facility.
But it's free.
Got it. Okay. I was just curious if that was something that is pretty common or if it's
Very common.
allowed. Okay.
Yeah, we have about 900 volunteers. A
Oh,
lot
nice.
of our community is engaged in the homeless vets.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, for reference, we took our youth city council there last year and did some volunteering and played with the dogs, and it was fantastic. And the staff was great, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item, we've got another presentation. Blair Gardner is here for Cooper's Landing Development, if you'd like to come up. Hi, good. Good to see you.
By the way, I think maybe 6 or 7 dogs we posted. My daughter told me the last one, I just kept staying at the house. And a month went by, another month went by. I'm like, when are you gonna go get another one and switch it out? And she's like, we've got to be adopted from day one. So we did that was about 6 years ago. So I highly support what you're doing. It's very reasonable. So my name's Blair Gardner. I currently live in Huntsville. I'm a developer. I've been doing it for about 20 years. Got some familiar faces. And I don't know if he's going to be a good resource for me as far as moving forward. But I actually developed a project that you'll see here up in Mountain Green, which Lance had a great part of that. So Real quick question, you guys obviously got the presentation. It sounds like this has been, well, I've actually proposed this on a different piece of property. Mayor Westbrook is familiar with that. That didn't work out. And I know the property that you referenced, which is behind Morty's.
Yep.
If you don't mind me asking, I never heard why that did get denied.
It never got developed.
But as far as the concept, it never got.
It was
Ever-
they requested a change in, oh shoot, what is it called? A zone change. They requested a zone change and it didn't make it out of planning commission.
Okay, because like I say, I respect any, hate to, try to tear down walls that have been built so strong that they're not gonna be torn down. But just to be very clear and transparent, I don't own the property. I've communicated with the current owner of the property. He had a completely different concept in mind. This is an exploratory idea for me from the location itself. I'm currently building this project in different locations that are fully complete as well as in process. One of the reasons that I am doing this is because of the need. The people are coming to me going, Blair, this is what we would like to see. I've seen it done in other municipalities. It's highly successful for the intention for what it's for. And I'll be happy to answer some of the questions that you have, give you some peace of mind. But so with that being said, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I believe, we came and sat with, which is why I'm here, with your staff and basically went through the concept. You guys feel as a staff members that this would be, you'd be in support of it. They were highly supportive of the concept, knowing that there is no current code. I'm very much aware of that. If we were to move forward with this project, we'd have to identify the development agreement to facilitate both how it's built, setbacks, traffic flows, all of the different things. So I'm very much aware of that and willing to support that anywhere we can. So really quickly, are you going to teach me how to run this thing, or do I just have to guess?
Just figure it out.
Just at the end. So currently I identified this piece of property literally just by driving by. These are the type of parcels that I actually really get excited about with this type of concept. One, they're up against the high traffic flow. They seem to work very, very well. The setback allowance within a commercial area seems to work very, very well. A buffering zone between a multifamily or a high dense residential and a high traffic flow in terms of the arterial, these products seems to work very, very well. So I had Reeves and Associate, which happens to be the same engineer that is being used by the current owner of the property. So they were very much, and they're also the engineer that have done my stuff up in Mountain Green and the stuff down in the Working that I'm building. And so this is simply what we could do on the property, right? When it comes to development, it's always what's the price of the ground compared to what you can do with it. So bear in mind, this isn't a hard, fast, this is exactly what I want to do, but this gives you a good idea. Now, on the high side, which is, let's call it the uphill side, that's more of a flex commercial style unit. It will have bathrooms, they're not residential. It'll have bathrooms, 3/4 showers, toilet sink. We will be selling them as a gray shell, and so help identify what we're trying to accomplish. When I say sell, is we look to condominiumize. So instead of me building it all, holding all of them and leasing them out, we'll actually sell each individual box with its own individual tax ID number, which allows for different users, different owners. The nice part about that, those who have bought from me, they love the ownership side of things. Anybody that's leased from me in the past is, can I own? Can I own? Can I own? This concept allows them to do that through condominiumization. So essentially, there will be a COA. HOA is Homeowners Association. I call it a COA, which is a commercial owners association, within which there'll be common areas for these asphalt, snow removal, dumpsters, and depending on the utilities, sometimes utilities will be included, including water and sewer primarily. That will be included as far as the COA, okay? The nice part about that, in terms of, to answer your second question, or one of your questions, is who regulates this? What businesses go in there? What people get to go in there? With what I've done in the past, what we do is basically within the development agreement and the support of the city is if there's going to be a business, the COA cannot sell them a unit until they bring us a legitimate business license or approval for a business license for that business. So we're going to do some checks and balances between the COA and the city to say, yes, you can put a business in here, because it is an approved, allowed business to be used in that particular zone, okay? So the COA, one of its responsibilities, obviously, to make sure we get the business license, and then we do periodic checks. Typically, they're annually. Are you operating what you say you're supposed to be operating here? One of the limitations of this type of product is parking. So parking really limits what type of businesses go in here. Typically, we have 2.5 to 3.5 stalls per unit identified specifically for that unit. If there is any common area, it'll be up in that northeast corner. However, our intention is to not have a lot of traffic flow through here. We want, give you an example, in Mountain Green, I've got a gentleman that does sleeping bags. The FedEx trucks come in and he custom sews sleeping bags and different things. I have a water company. People come in and drop off checks. I have a landscaping company that nobody comes in other than landscaping employees. Just to give you an idea of the type of businesses, okay? Hazardous waste is always a concern, right? Someone goes in, they dump their RVs and it goes into the sewer system. Depending on the structure and the design, we actually have a stop waste system that we've used in the past. In that, it doesn't get the entire sewer contaminated and or storm contaminated, and it's in that catch basin, and then we can track it back to whoever that individual was. It's never happened, but bear in mind, that's just some of the forward thinking that we do with our projects to help facilitate down the road questions. Fair enough? Want me to pause? Any questions so far? Keep going?
Keep going.
Perfect. Now, on the south side, we'll call the south, technically west side, you'll notice that they're a little bit narrower, a little bit longer. So the option on that side, and the reason why I conceptually designed it, is because there is a major market in which people want to own their own storage, right? They'll go store their boats, pay $600, $700, $800 a month, ironically enough. This would give them an opportunity in which we wouldn't put any bathrooms, we wouldn't put any of that infrastructure in that scenario, and it's literally square boxes. The current concept is being done already up in Huntsville. They're selling those units for about 180 grand a unit. I don't believe they have any more. So the market is there. It's just bear in mind, there's two different concepts. One is more business related. The other one is going to be more, we'll sell the storage, in which you own your storage and you can put in there what you want. The nice part about that is the traffic, there is none. It's private individual users. However, they would still have their COA fee, which my project up in Mountain Green, just at the end of the airport, we charge $130 a month. And it includes water, sewer, garbage, snow removal, landscaping, and external insurance, as well as security cameras. I put in security cameras in all of my units, and we have a 30-day window in which if there's something happens, we can go back 30 days and provide it to the law enforcement. Okay, never had an incident so far. Traffic flows. It's always a big one for this. We do have two different ingresses and egresses on that far south side, which is very, very nice. We obviously, due to geographic concerns and limitations, we can't get out the other side to the north. But traffic flow is always good to have those two ingresses and egresses. So we would comply based upon going through the city and identifying exactly what the requirements are going to be for that. Obviously, one of the big questions is with the residential multifamily right there, is how much more traffic are we going to impact that area? Given hopefully some of my explanation, it's not as much as you think it would be. In fact, far less than what the multifamily is currently impacting. As I understand it, the current zone on this is an RM, I'm not gonna say RM, is 7 units per acre on the residential. That's correct.
Your current zone is agricultural, your projected zone is residential moderate.
So the current seller is wanting to do the residential zone.
I think he wanted R7, but it's not even on the general plan.
Yeah.
So
hopefully with this concept, it brings a little bit more light into the potential of that property. I personally don't feel that another residential product within that square box makes a lot of sense, but obviously selfish, I'm bringing you something else that hopefully would fit within what the city's looking for in the long term. There is different tax base there. There might be additional sales tax depending on the users. So the positives far outweigh the negatives, but I'm also try to make it happen as well. So moving forward, let's see what I got to do with large plans. Probably pause for too long. Too much talking, not enough showing. Let's try that out. So this is a product, just to give you an idea, this is a product that is up in Park City currently. Ironically enough, these are a little bit larger units, but they're in the 1.2 to $2.2 million price point. Different markets, different areas. The gray shell, which is basically you can see with just the studs and the windows in there. Typically, that is what I would sell these units for two reasons. One is cost for me. Two is I've tried to guess what other people want, and I've missed it every time. Every one that I've sold, they wanted to go in and change something. Okay. Now, the other part to that is then there'll be additional building permits for the internal units and or tenant improvements, which we as the developer can control, or we can allow other outside builders to come in and comply with whatever the city requires. Okay. Again, more Park City stuff, just to give you an idea of what the external facade may look like over here with large 14-foot high by 12-foot wide garage doors with a single entrance. That would be more of the commercial side. In my original diagram, or the first diagram, would be more on the east side, and then the storage would just simply have a garage door. Okay. Just jargon, just same stuff I've just been talking about. You're welcome to read through that as you like. Let's make sure you got there. That basically identifies the property itself. This is a current project that we just broke ground today down in Verkin, just about a mile south of where you turn to go to Zion's. Reason I give you this is my first rodeo. I'm doing this all the time. This gives a little bit of the external facade that shows what we have currently built, and you can literally walk through up in Mountain Green. We've completely sold out of all the units and leased them fully. There's another concept that's over here behind the Reeves and Associate building where the old theater used to be. You can kind of get an idea of what that looks like as well. This is the external up there in Mountain Green currently while it's in construction. A little bit more, yeah. So we're excited. This is my team, Angie and Damien. We're small, we contract and subcontract out from here. These associates is our preferred engineer, and I've been doing this for about 20-25 years, plus or minus. So, any questions? Which thoughts, feelings?
Tons of questions.
Sure.
Did you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, Mountain Green.
Yes, sir.
How many units are up there?
We currently have 14.
So you have 14, they've all sold. What kind of businesses are going in there?
We have water companies.
Uh-huh.
We have the sleeping bag manufacturer. We have a landscaping company. We have a construction company, and the rest of them are all man caves, indoor she sheds.
No, seriously.
Seriously.
No, seriously.
They need a place to get away, I guess.
They're stored cars, their boats. It's amazing. And,
Yeah.
and if I had 30 more, they'd be gone.
Yeah.
In fact, there's another product being built up there by CW Urban, which is right across from the new Lee's.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's called Rome Commercial Condos. They're trying to do what's called a live work space, in which it's a 60 by 30 base, living up top. Their gray shell is $750,000.
Thanks. So looking at all of them that you've done, what percent do you think really is retail? None?
Your sales tax revenue coming off of these, that's why I want to be very clear on
Mhm.
parking. I'm not going to sell you that there's going to be a bunch of retail. You're going to see a lot of sales tax on this.
Okay. Do your others have hours of operation?
No.
So somebody could come in at any time of night and get into their sheds,
Correct.
get deliveries early in the morning if they're an HVAC and start slamming things around?
Yes, technically, yes. Now, we do have noise conditions within the CCNRs that we put. All the buildings are lit. So for multiple, so it's not, it looks like, and I'm at the end of the airport.
Yeah.
And then everything has security. So we have security cameras on the external that we cover as the COA.
Okay. So we're just trying to verify a couple things. Number one, no residential at all, no overnight stay, no man cave with an overnight stay,
Well, I don't regulate the overnight stay. I don't know how they would. If they wanted to pull their RV in and sleep in it overnight, I don't want to get in trouble as the COA operator for that type of use.
Okay.
Built out living space, no, we do not. We do not.
And the electric poles that we have up there, is that what was on the map as just the mist shed, basically?
Yeah. So that, another reason why that location does service this type of product is because of all the high power. It doesn't get impacted by our product relative to what we do is the residential.
Okay. Now, looking forward, do you see this one being a, excuse me, utilities included? Or are you thinking about, posting a meter at each one of these?
Depends on the utilities.
Yeah.
Up in Mountain Green, they wanted they put 3 water meters for 3 buildings, right? It was a 5-unit, 5-unit, and a 4-unit. That's what they chose to do, which means I have to cover the water and then go through the HOA. I prefer that everybody has their own meter, but it's really the utility what facilitates that tells me what they want.
That'll be part of it, a development agreement or
Yeah.
the conditional use permit.
Sure.
Those are all my questions. Next.
Blair, do you have any?
I mean, I think you're just trying to get a feel for whether we would think this is okay. And so I don't want to get too far into the weeds a little bit, but you do I mean, the way it's drawn, and I know JB hasn't probably truly laid this out the way, part of where you've got buildings is a road that says Utah State Road Commission owns that piece.
Yeah, so according to Shane, the seller, any of that UDOT facilitation, basically the layout that you see would be what would be part of the sale. And again, still part of the due diligence, but it's hard for me to go forward and do, thousands of dollars worth of work if you guys are like, yeah, we don't want it in the city, and that's fine.
There's just a lot of right of ways and stuff down at that far north side. So that's, as long as you understand that. What else did I? Realizing if it did move forward, I think planning commission and everyone would have a tough time having just a blank wall on that east side.
If it backs up against the townhomes?
No, probably both sides. Well, east side,
Sorry, east side.
because that's coming in. I mean, they're gonna want to dress it up more than just, and I know that could be all part of agreements. Just know going into that, it's not gonna just be a stucco wall.
Well, that was one of my questions, because the architectural design in terms of depth, trees, that's part of it. The other part of it is windows, because in Mountain Green, we had to add windows as part of the architectural design.
And I can almost guarantee you that would be part of it.
Which is great. I want it to look sexy. I want it to look pretty. The third is advertising. What would be your rule if everybody wanted to put their own advertising, their business off of that street?
Are you suggesting it would be above a new South Weber entrance sign? Is that what you're saying? Just checking. I didn't know what kind of sign.
Again, this is exploratory.
I mean, it gets into all, I mean, that's part of our sign ordinance and stuff. I mean, if it's on the building, I don't know that there's gonna be a lot of pushback on that.
Limitations, like up there, we do a 4 foot, what is it, 3 feet by 4 by 8 is the maximum square footage that you can have based upon different configurations. So we as the COA actually limit it, because we don't want one guy with some big neon and another one with, so we try to regulate that. However, as a development agreement, you guys can determine whether we have a monument that lists all the businesses in the corner, or every person who owns a unit can actually put their own advertisements. If it's an open if it's an open conversation, that's great. If it's hell no, we don't want it, that's great too.
I mean, personally, I'm open to the idea because it is a tough piece of property. I mean, I live right there. I'm very familiar with the property. I still go mow the grass. So I don't know what else can go there. You can't put it's kind of sitting on a commercial corner, but it can't fit a gas station.
I wondered if those chicken coops were actually historic markers.
I'll really have to work that.
I don't think so.
I'm just kidding.
I doubt it. But I would be open to the concept, but I just know there's going to be some I know planning commission and I know the council would want to dress up the buildings because it's right there.
That's 100% agree.
It is the
Um,
entrance of our city.
Yeah. I mean,
Which is kind of the appeal to me
but
as a developer.
the one other thing I put a question down is having the one side be straight storage. I know that we've already kind of taken straight storage units pretty much off the books right now currently.
And that's fine. I'll
And
put them all
they-
as flex.
They could all be flex. I mean, it's part of the open discussion, whether that's what everybody agreed to. I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. If the exterior looks like the rest of it and looks like some of your presentation, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
So, but that's my personal opinion. So.
Any other questions, or how do you all feel? Angie, how do you feel?
I appreciate your presentation and being so straightforward with us. When I first looked at this, I was like mulling it over, and I actually don't hate it.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
We don't hate you.
Oh.
That's what she says to us a lot, so.
No, I do feel like that there is a need for it. There's a market for it. And like Blair said, there's not a lot else that could go there. So I'm definitely open to it. I agree with making sure the building would be nice. But I'm definitely open to the conversation about it.
Well, good. I appreciate that. And to add to that, one of the reasons when I do have these kind of exploratory is tell me what you like. I like the property. Right? So if there is another use, another idea, general plan, I didn't see anything on the general plan that really gave much attention to this property. Is one of the reasons why it kind of drew my attention.
It was one of the pieces I think we struggled with in the last general plan.
I'm certainly open to the concept
Yes, sir.
for the reasons that's already been given, so. Joe?
I do have a few concerns, but I do think it's a good project to go through the system and let's see, where things kind of flesh out on it. I would really have loved to see that where it's going right across from one of the biggest draw the city is going to have, be a little more retail. And I do have a few concerns with the road letting out right there at the neighborhood. Because yes, you can turn and go onto the freeway on 475, but you can also back right back up into a very small and tough to get around neighborhood that, so I do have that concern on it, but yeah, I like the idea of it. I still don't believe in the sheds and the man caves. I'll have to see that in action to actually go, but
Joel, you could buy one. And then you could see it in action.
Honestly, if I had a man cave, my wife would probably lock me in it. And so I try to just.
She and I actually had a conversation.
You live here now. Whole mess of the wives would get together and we'd all be locked in there. But yeah, I'm willing to see it. I think I would like to see that area developed. Like I said, it is the entrance to our city. So I do have a lot of hopes of what this would look like and better than it looks like right now. So yeah, I'm definitely interested.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm the same. I like what you reviewed with us today. I have similar concerns, but I think we can vet all that out through additional conversations and development agreements and whatnot. So I don't have anything that I would say this is a hard pass for me. I think this is a good idea personally. So
Great. Well, and again, to add to that, I think you had mentioned it. If we make this happen, there's going to be other people who want the same thing. So I definitely want to be part of doing it right the first time. And there's no rush relative to, it's not like I'm trying to force this down anybody's throat to push it through, but there is a lot of documentation and other data that we can bring in to say, this is what's worked somewhere else. If it works here, and then we can adopt that hopefully. So.
yep.
Wayne?
Well, I'm not on the hell no part. And I'm certainly not on, yeah, let's go. I'm somewhere in between. But
That's good to hear from Wayne too, though.
what's that?
That's a positive statement from Wayne.
Somewhat. I do have concerns with the volume of units or number of units for the space, knowing you're trying to maximize dollar per square foot. Given the space limitations, access on a busy 475 near a freeway, draw some concerns, but these are things that are going to be worked out. I don't think they're fatal flaws, but they are serious concerns that I would have with regards to meeting the needs of those and the others who are in the area who are going to be traversing past it. So I think first thoughts come to my mind.
Well, that impact is part of one of the concept on that idea is retail is something we can't, it really is. However, what do you get with retail?
More,
A lot of people,
more people.
a lot of lefts, a lot of right-hand turns. We would even being requested, I wouldn't want to take a left turn on, I think it's 475.
Yeah.
That's a right turn only. If they're gonna come out, they're gonna hit the residential, come back up to the light, turnaround, excuse me. and make that. So again, same thing. If you could do a retail, it would make sense from the cost of the ground relative to the unit count. It might be, it's definitely better for the city for the sales tax. However, you're gonna acquire people and need traffic. And so that's why forward thinking, I would hope that that would come into consideration. So thank you.
I don't have a better use for it, so I'm open to the idea.
Yeah, I think it's genius, actually. It's a really good use of space.
But you brought up a good point. The number of units per acre, however we would allow that, we would be relying on some Lance and a few other people to come up with that number is, so they're not too small and too packed in.
Yeah, well,
So that
I maximized it based upon.
I agree. I agree.
I wanted to scare the hell out of you. Truly, I don't need to put that many units on there to make this make sense. But as you said, there's a square footage dollar amount relative to, and guys, I don't own it yet. That's the other big kicker. And I might have just wasted your time. I wouldn't say wasted it, but at least you got educated because there will be more of this.
Right.
Whether it's me or someone else. I've actually been propositioned to bring it to that property over by by Morty's, and I chose not to pursue that property due to some slope and geographic reasons. And I love this place. I helped facilitate the soccer field. I own that ground for the soccer stadium. Love me or hate me, sorry. And then I helped develop. I was the developer on the project up here by the Maverick and the frontage road, the 55 and older community. So I want to be here more. And so therefore, I'm not just here to flash and pan, and this is part of my community as well. So
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very
One more
much.
question, Mayor, sorry.
You
One
always
more
have the
question.
last say.
Always gotta remember.
Hey, Westbrook, I tried to
Like-
leave, but she stopped.
Like you were surprised at this point. Do you have, based on this configuration, do you have an idea of what that square footage is? What you typically build?
Yeah, I will not build anything less than 1,500 square feet per unit.
Okay.
On the flex. I prefer 18, which is
Okay.
a 30 by 60 foot unit, which that does not show. Those only show 15s. The storage concept, the sellable storage concept on the other side, I think are 22s by 50s, 22 by 60s.
Okay.
So they're a smaller square footage, but they're a different use. I personally, if I can get the seller to cooperate, then I would prefer there be a dual flex. And there would be mirrored, we could then do some more different architectural designs, so it's not a face wall. And then you guys have your height restrictions, I don't think we built anything over,
35 feet.
you're 35 just like everybody else, so. Whatever.
How tall are those
33.
typically?
The ones that I built in Mountain Green, 14, they were 25 at the peak. Flat roofs, membrane.
Typical.
Yeah, we're 14-foot high door. Actually, they're taller than that. No, yeah, 25 to 28, I believe, on those units. My Laverkin project, they're gonna be 32s, but we're doing roof decks on different stuff.
Are you familiar with the units off of 1,000 and 193 in Clear Syracuse by chance?
1,193.
Because they look very similar in design. I was curious if you were aware of those, because I pass those all the time.
They keep popping up.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys that will build them will hold on long-term rentals and they'll do bigger square footages, like the big tip-up concrete stuff here.
Mhm.
I'm doing the same thing, just on a smaller scale, and I'm selling my stuff. But I've not been out there recently to take a look at those, but I will.
The other question that just came into mind, do you look to sell them as a single unit, or do you look them to be flexible to where someone could buy two next to each other and then merge them?
Well, merge is up to them, but the
Okay.
individual tax ID numbers, you can buy 5 if you want.
Okay.
And then what I typically try to do, where one of the biggest concerns are is the firewall separation, not knowing who the units are gonna belong to.
Yep.
So we basically try to find that happy medium of, And again, parking is always a limitation, so we know that a restaurant's not gonna come in there next to someone who's gonna have a daycare, whatever, I mean, those are terrible examples, but, because there's no parking. But the firewall separation is always a concern, that's one, right? The second is structural, meaning if they want to combine the units and put an opening in between there, there's only, without the right footing and foundation, or footing support, there's only so much span, which is typically a 6 foot wide.
Got it. Okay.
But the answer, that was a long answer to your question, yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Blair.
Blair, thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Lance, will you stand up for a minute? Everyone, this is Lance Evans. He's our new communication developer manager, newest employee for South Weaver City, and we want to welcome you here and appreciate you coming to work for South Weaver and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Lance. Can I ask a
Where's
question?
Haley at? Yeah, come on.
Oh,
You get a quick.
that died,
I have
we
a
decided, that died with Haley.
That died.
I will let her know. I will let her know.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Lance.
Lance.
Okay, next, our consent agenda. We need to approve January 9th and 23rd minutes of 2024, January checks, and December budget to actual. Any discussion on any of these from anyone on the council? If not, then we'll look for a motion to approve these.
Mayor, make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Next item. Ordinance 2024-02, Title 1, Chapter 2, Section 5, E1 amendment. This is the amendment that we no longer need to advertise any of our notices in newspaper. So anyone have any discussions on this ordinance change? If not, then we'll look for a motion to approve this.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-02, Title 1, Chapter 2, Section 5, E1.
E1.
Whatever it is.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll begin with the roll call vote, starting with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, water and sewer utility rate study contract. About every 5 years, we redo this study, and time is coming up apparently, and so we're looking for approval to award this contract.
Mayor, just a note, when we've worked with Zion's Public Finance in the past, we did this study in 2018, was that, Wayne? And it was great. So I'm very pleased with what they do. So
Was the cost similar? I can't remember.
I think it was slightly less.
I can't speak to the cost in 2018, but I know that this one is joint, both the water and the sewer, and it is quite significantly under what we budgeted.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. I don't know what it was in 2018.
Okay, any other questions? Look for a motion then.
Mayor, I make a motion to, I move to award the water sewer utility rate studies contract to Zion's Public Finance, Inc. for $11,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item, legislative review. Dave's gonna tell us what's going on down at the state capitol building.
Nothing good.
I will take the lead, but I know everybody else is following as well. So feel free to jump in and add anything that you know that I may not say. The mayor, Angie, and I met with the league and other cities that have gravel pits on Monday before the traditional or regularly scheduled legislative policy committee to specifically talk about two gravel pit bills, SB 172 and HB 502. Those are probably the two that matter to us the most in South Weber, although there are many that matter to us this year. SB 172 was sponsored by Senator Hinkin, but he has stepped away from that and he is not sponsoring it. There's kind of a question of who will sponsor that now, if anybody. So that one is kind of dying a slow death. It was pulled from committee and put back in rules, which basically means nobody's really running that right now. Still being watched, but chances are that's not going to proceed, which is good for us. However, HB 502 is probably a worse bill. And to summarize it, it essentially means that gravel pit companies can extract wherever they own property. And if they purchase property in the future, they could extract there too. It removes city land use authority almost entirely as it relates to gravel pits. This is straight up preemption and a very bad bill, not just for us, but for all cities, because even if they don't have a gravel pit currently, they could easily get one, right? Gravel pits come in here, there, and everywhere with this type of a bill. So the league strongly opposes it. We talked about it at length as gravel pit cities as well in legislative policy committee with all cities. There's not a action alert on this yet, because it's still being determined what committee it would go to. And once it is assigned a committee, then we will know where and who to communicate with on that. And so the league is saying we're polishing the guns, we're ready to come guns blazing, but we just need to know when and where the appropriate people are to contact on that. Obviously, we could communicate with our legislators right now on that as well, even if they're not part of the committees that would look at it. But anything more that anybody would like to say on gravel pit bills?
It's terrible, terrible, terrible. That's it.
Are you gonna say your line? This is your moment.
Hate, loathe it. Is that right?
Yeah. The Jim Carrey Grinch moment, right? Hate, double hate, loathe
Double hate.
entirely. Yeah, that's kind of how we feel and how all cities feel at the league on HB 502. So I will add this. Last year, when it was relating to a totally different topic, some housing issues, affordable housing, they were talking about street widths and how that would affect development and whatnot. Spanish Fork City did an excellent job creating some visuals of the various street widths and what that would mean, and was able to really provide good data and visuals for the legislature. And a similar type of effort will be made around gravel pits. We recognize, and it was discussed, the science doesn't back the idea of health concern. However, the nuisance concerns and the effect on quality of life is significant. And so we've already put together a shared folder to put videos and or pictures that Spanish Fork City, with their internal communications department, they obviously have their own TV station that they broadcast city council meetings with and other things. We've already shared the pictures and videos that we have as a city that have come to me over the last couple of years. If we continue to receive any, then we can submit those in this shared folder, and Spanish Fork's communication team is going to help put a visual to the gravel pit nuisance and the fugitive dust situation. And that's, I think, maybe an important piece of this puzzle for us that hasn't necessarily been done in the past. So I think that's a big thing for us. So if you or anybody that you know submits photos or videos to you, please get them to me, and I will make sure that they are in the hands of those that can put that visually toward the legislature. I know that that was a major thing when we brought in our own county and local legislators and had that conversation a couple of years ago here in our own city council meeting. When they saw the pictures, the eyes opened and went, oh, this is different than what I thought it was. And so a similar effect, if we could create any kind of information campaign and a similar kind of, oh, that's what it means to be a host city and residents in the quote unquote sacrifice zones, that would be good for us. So
I'll send you some stuff. There's been a lot posted in a lot of the community groups for South Weber, showing quite a bit of what it's like. And then just a reminder, there was I want to say KSL news reporter came out and did a whole story on it. And you could see the amount of the sand that was blowing up and what it was doing. So yeah, those are two good things I'll send over to you.
I just want to clarify so people don't get confused. We're not saying that it's good to breathe in the dirt, that that it doesn't affect your health. However, knowing how that relates to what the legislature is going to say, we can't really prove that.
Right.
Okay, so clarifying that.
Yeah, that's why we're going with the nuisance side instead. And that's why we're going to be
Correct.
able to show the dust and all those kind of things. Yeah.
Wayne has something to say.
Just curious of this campaign, this nuisance campaign, is it also going to consider the water bodies of the state being polluted with this dust? You know, it gets into the storm drain, and the storm drains flow into the bodies of the rivers go to the Great Salt Lake. As much emphasis they put on construction for speedy stormwater pollution prevention permits, and yet these bits get a freebie. Because all that dust lands on our city streets, gets into our storm drains, gets out into the outfalls. Is the campaign just always on airborne, or does it consider the other transportation mechanisms such as water?
that's a great point, and I'll make sure to contact the Spanish Fork city manager and express the desire to have it be both of those things, the airborne and, the water quality issue. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad for the reminder. Thank you.
There's one other water aspect to that legislation, because it would prohibit cities from limiting the water use by the gravel pits. And so you have kind of a supply issue also, the one that you're pointing out, Wayne. So I think there is a really important water component to it.
Also, you can, like Dave said, if they purchase property, they can do it regardless of what the zoning is, and it just it can't be closer than 1,000 feet to a subdivision, which is not very far away.
I think that was actually the first bill, not the second.
No, I'm pretty sure it's in 502.
Okay.
Sounds like we need to amend our fee schedule for excavation, and any excavation that's over 100 cubic yards has a hefty fine, right?
Well, actually, the bill also states that the city would have to provide the utilities out to it.
2 miles.
So, yeah.
But yeah, this is actually, I should say, this is a bill against the parties. Salt Lake, it's basically a parties pit that's going after Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City's got
Yeah, this is a big deal. One of the things that they're communicating at the league is the idea that this is a nose of the camel in the tent situation. If they do it for gravel pits, what's to say there's not some other industry that they decide to preempt land use of cities for? And it's really bad policy and legislation all the way around. So be ready to do our part when it comes to communicating how that would affect us. We're going to make sure our information is part of the overall campaign. But there will be a moment, I'm sure, where legislator to legislator speaking, council and mayor to our state representatives to have that conversation. The time will come.
Do you have any feel for how popular that bill is with the other senators?
I don't know. That's curious. Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that the particular bill sponsor has a little bit of a track record of putting something out that is very controversial to get people's attention and to bring people to the table, and then tends to kind of back off and say, okay, now that you're here, let's talk about the details. So that's part of the don't go blow it up yet kind of an idea. It might simply be an a political strategy to get everybody's eyes on this issue and then work on the interim or have conversations in the future. So that's part of the political strategy that is happening, and we wonder.
Put the strategy back on it. Now he's got more eyes on it. They're gonna get full attention. of
Yeah.
the other aspects that are going on, and it might work the other way.
Yeah, very well could. Yeah, very well could. Anything else with gravel pit? Their HB 289, the property rights ombudsman bill. This is one that the league opposes. I didn't write down specifically where that's at in the process, if it's that to a committee yet. Do you know that by chance, Jamie?
I don't know whether it's committee has some familiarity with legislation.
They have made some adjustments to it. It's now 2 substitutes in, but it essentially grants that a judge or a court shall grant consequential damages if the property rights ombudsman advisory opinion sides with the other party, not the city. However, they did add language that the standard for applying those consequential damages is if the city knowingly and intentionally acts against the law. So that is a high legal standard. That's an important distinction. Before, it was very nebulous on when and how the courts could apply that. Now it's a high standard. So that's a step in the right direction. Still oppose the idea on the whole.
It says its last action went to the Senate Standing Committee yesterday.
Okay, thank you. There's also a bill relating to building inspection, Senate Bill 185, that we also oppose as a league and as a city. Right now, the law basically says the city or the city's hired third-party inspector has to do the inspections. This bill would allow a developer to contract with their own inspector, and the city would have to allow that, which of course we oppose that idea. When you're the regulatory agency and you're charged with keeping the standard and inspecting the quality of work, to have to allow the developer or builder to hire their own inspector and they get to, pencil whip and or approve whatever they feel. They would try to put guardrails in, I'm sure, but that just reeks of a conflict of interest.
Can I go back this way? Everybody knows House Bill 289 did pass the House though.
89 passed, 289 passed the
It says
House.
House passed as substitute, second substitute property rights. Then it goes to the Senate.
But that says February 9th, and we were still talking about this yesterday.
Well, it's to the Senate.
Hmm.
I'm just reading the.
I see what you're reading,
Yeah.
sir.
Saying.
That's on the budget.
Yeah, it is 289 from Kirkland.
Wow.
But it still has to go through the Senate, but.
Okay.
Huh.
There's a lot still happening on the housing and land use side. I won't get into all of the details on that. But there's elements of modular housing, there's elements of the infrastructure districts. There's a concept that is yet to be numbered and have a bill drafted that essentially takes public treasurer investment fund PTIF money that would be used to essentially the state treasurer would be authorized to invest up to $1 billion of the PTIF money into qualified projects. They'd have to be applied for. Qualified projects means a certain percentage would be sold as first home levels. They would have to be owner occupied. It could be all types of units. There's a lot that would happen with this.
So I'm going to jump in. This one,
Sure.
I applaud the creativity. I don't appreciate them taking the money out of the fund. It's supposed to help buy down a rate essentially for the developers so they can get it at a lower rate, so they can build more affordable homes, and then ensure that at least 60% of the homes they're building are 350,000 or less, right? My concern is the practicality of how they're actually going to make that happen. They said, Waldrop said there would be 3 years where they could lend on it, 2 years to repay it back. So it would have a 5-year window. So for the developer.
One element of this that I think is important is to know they're coming from a place of data that the last few years, cities have provided tons and tons of information about the number of entitled units, right? Developers have brought in proposals, cities have approved them. There are now entitled units, and there are tens of thousands of entitled units out there that are not being built. And so they're asking the question, why are these not being built? And it's essentially developers not having access to funding to go in and actually start these homes that are already approved and entitled. So they're recognizing a gap between, they've hit cities over the last few years saying, don't get in the way, we need more and more units. And cities are saying, we've entitled truckloads of units. There are all of these entitled units, but they're not being built. So, it's not our fault. This is now trying to look at kind of market conditions and why that's not happening, why they're not being built, and trying to infuse funding and an option for that. So
the things for us to consider as cities, they have to ensure that we are willing to work with them on their lot sizes. And the question still is, well, if we are ensuring these are owner occupied, who is managing that? Who is overseeing that? They don't have a term yet set for how long they have to be owner occupied. They don't have there's a lot of question marks with it still. So there's a lot of to think about on that one. Okay.
There was a general sense in LPC, and you can both speak to this, that were there if you feel a little bit differently, but there was a general sense of the state is now taking a little bit of a shift in approach, saying we want to provide tools for housing affordability, not necessarily continue with the mandates and the preemptions. There's a little bit more of a dialogue of, if we can create incentives, if we can create tools that cities and or developers can use to unlock this process and create some more attainable and or affordable housing, that could be a really good thing. I think that is a general good positive step in the right direction, that it's the Commission on Housing Affordability and others that are looking at this detailed are not trying to continue to just tell cities what to do in this space. It's more of a, let's provide tools and incentives. So I think that's overall a positive thing for us. And I'd just like to acknowledge that. Do either of you feel differently about that?
Yeah.
Okay. There's also a concept that's being discussed. Again, it's not bill numbered yet, but again, a tool. It's called the First Home Investment Zone, a FIZ. It used to be the Starter Home Investment Zone. I can see why they changed it to First Home Investment Zone. Basically tools, there's already a process for transit zones and how it can be kind of like an RDA or a CRA tool for funding and whatnot. This is also something that is being developed and a concept that is being worked on. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's on the radar. The Commission on Housing Affordability has a bill coming out, HB 465, that is just revising some of the affordability conversations that they've had recently. It does encourage certain things, again, targeting housing supply. This is a bill that the league supports. The moderate income housing plan that we're required to have has a number of different things tied to our compliance there. Funds that we're available for and are eligible for. They're adding the idea that in order to receive state outdoor recreation grants, then you need to be in compliance with the moderate income housing plan. You know, some other things that are examples used that they're trying to now apply in that same kind of space. So
Can
that's-
can I just add something real quick? Just a thought.
Go for that.
And maybe I'm not thinking about this correctly, but every time I hear about the state trying to do something in this space, in my mind, one, I don't think it's right for them to do that, but two, isn't it all just temporary anyway? Because as soon as let's just say they go forward this $1 billion worth of funding and they give these developers this discount basically, or loan or whatever you want to call it. It's only temporary because there's still going to be more people that move in. So are we really solving a problem? Because you're only solving a problem for the first 1,000 people who buy a house or whatever that number ends up being, probably less than that. So am I wrong?
No.
Here?
No, you're not wrong. And that's part of the problem that I personally feel is that I recognize they're trying to solve a problem, but I don't even know if it's theirs to solve.
Right. And if they try to solve it, I think it just exacerbates the problem, honestly. Right.
Definitely could.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry, just wanted to, and my chair is broken, just so everyone's aware.
Already?
Oh.
Oh,
It's only,
do that the rest of the night.
it's only February.
I know. Geez, Jeremy.
Sorry.
There are other things that the league is tracking. I think those are probably the main ones that we've got on our radar here that we're involved in. Obviously the league bill tracker, you can look at any point. That's on the league website, to see if there's, bills that come across your desk or in front of you in some way that you feel as a city or the league should be involved in. You can always send that to me or send that to the league to say, you're neutral or you've taken some type of stance, support, oppose, neutral. And if we feel that should be different, then we can always communicate that with them. They say that pretty much every legislative policy committee that, they do quite a bit of research on our behalf, but if there's ever times where we feel like that position should be changed for whatever reason, open line of communication there.
You mentioned at the retreat, the bill that talked about any property tax increases to go to a public vote. Has that bill made any progress?
I haven't heard any more on it. Have you?
I haven't either.
I think it's still coming. Okay, Dave, thank you very
Actually,
much.
Mayor, I think there's one more. That
Okay.
just- I
Please note that was
reminded of.
David, not Angie.
We'll see. HB 489 is a bill about party affiliation disclosure that I think all elected officials should know about. It basically allows you basically allows elected officials to have their party affiliation posted on the ballot. Although city and municipal elections would still be considered nonpartisan, it really is a step toward partisan politics at the city level to allow, RDUI, whatever you want there as a party affiliation tag as part of the election. So keep
So wasn't
in-
that a must? They were saying that each party each candidate shall declare their affiliation, because the question was,
I think it's
it permits it? Okay,
Yeah,
because
just
someone says,
allows-
what if we're
allows.
not affiliated? And they said, we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so
If you're a member of a party, you may elect to put
Okay,
that
thank you.
affiliation on the ballot. So.
Okay, Dave, thank you. All right, time for some training. We've got our city attorney here that's going to come up and give us some training.
Jamie, at my first retreat, our city attorney put on an eye patch and gave out chocolate gold coins.
Coins?
Yeah. Can we expect any such things? Truly?
He was a pirate.
Yes, he was a pirate.
I better step up my game.
Yeah. Our stick to the code. So, I mean, I remembered it.
It took me about 3 minutes to recover from David's fizz jar. It seemed to go down the council as everybody figured out what it was. I will say I like following the legislative update because now suddenly ethics will feel like an upper.
Really?
While Lisa pulls up the presentation, I'll just say at the outset, this is your meeting, not mine, and I have some slides and some material put together, but I'm gonna run through it at a pretty quick pace. If you have topics that you'd like to ask questions or talk about, slow down. But most of this information for you all will be a refresher. So we're gonna talk about 3 topics in the presentation. The first is the mandatory Open and Public Meetings Act training that we have to do every year. The second is land use ethics. It'll be pretty quick. On Open and Public Meetings Act, the requirement is that we conduct, that the city council conduct its deliberations openly. Meetings have to be open to the public. That includes board meetings, it includes executive sessions. There are, let's see if this works.
Is it turned on?
Oh, there we go. Anytime you have a quorum, it has to be an open meeting. A quorum for the city council is 3 individuals. You have to have public notice.
Question, and the mayor does not count as that
The
3.
mayor does not count toward the quorum, that's correct, because you count voting members, not. So the mayor serves as the chair of the council and has executive and ceremonial functions. City, but isn't voting.
But he does count. He is important.
I don't know.
I'm just saying he gets to hang out.
The mayor does have a role in setting the agenda. The agenda governs the meeting and what topics you're able to act on. Council. There is a requirement for orderly conduct. This hasn't been an issue in South Weaver. It is an issue in other cities. And the mayor may have somebody removed if conduct is seriously compromised or compromises the meeting itself.
Is that an elected official or anyone else present? Okay.
Anybody that disrupts your ability to conduct business.
I heard the mayor pro tem is the sergeant at arms for that.
Yes. Well, I needed to make sure so I could clarify when I do that. Okay.
Fair enough. There are easy things for removal, right? If you have threatening behavior, threatening comments, that kind of thing. But you also could remove somebody in theory if they're just speaking, disrupting, doing things. We're not the Senate, can't filibuster. Electronic meetings are allowed. I'm not going to dwell on that much. You can't have meetings where people attend electronically. You have to have an anchor location. You have to keep a recording of your meetings. You have to keep written minutes and publish them within statutory timeframes. And then there are certain things where an ordinance or resolution has to be done with a hearing. No ordinance or resolution can be adopted except in an open public meeting. And then some notable exceptions to the hearing requirement, things like salaries or schedules for elected officers and officials, taxes, budgets, land use regulations, the impact fees, and property disposition have special notice and hearing requirements. You can close meetings, it's a 2/3 vote, 2/3 is for. The purposes for the closed meeting are listed there. Those that you'll most often do are for real estate transactions, employment decisions, personnel type decisions, discussions, and then the
2/3 of a full quorum.
correct.
So if there's only 4 members here, all 4 have to vote.
That's correct. Yes. There's another provision in state law that requires that for you to take any action, it has to be a quorum of the voting as well, not just a majority. So always with the 3 vote staff, you all. There are some things for which you cannot close a meeting. One of them is if you had a vacancy on the council, you were interviewing people. You have to record most closed meetings. There are some exceptions. You don't have to record it if you're having those personnel type discussions, security discussions, sign it out. There are two types of not regular meetings that are allowed. The first is an emergency meeting, and there's some overlap between what's called a special meeting. Any two council members can call a special meeting. A special meeting would be a meeting not on your regular schedule. The mayor also could call for a special meeting. And then emergency meetings are allowed. Emergency is not defined, so there's some judgment to be applied about what it is. But there are very few circumstances where you conduct an emergency meeting on 3 hours notice instead of the regular 24 hours notice. So keep in mind that the meeting requirement doesn't apply if it's a chance meeting or a social gathering. If you violate the act, there are criminal penalties violation. Electronic messages, keep in mind that you can violate quorum requirements electronically. A meeting can be person discussion, but it also can be an electronic meeting. So if you have an email thread, a text chain, a Facebook discussion where you have a quorum present, somebody would have to remove themselves and not be part of that conversation. Any questions about Open Public Meetings Act before?
Just real quick on the email, since we have email chains going on, us asking a question of the city manager, that does not violate the act, correct?
It's only if you're trying to request and to gather information.
Okay.
I do think it's a good practice on most email communication where it involves members of the city council that do it using the BCC line. If it's a blind carbon copy, that you don't fall into the trap of, hey, what do you think about this? And then delve into a policy discussion. A few quick notes on LEDMA. You have cities in Utah have authority delegated to them by the state. And the state authorizes the city to adopt its own land use standards. They have to be consistent with federal and state law. You have to do 3 different things. You have to have a planning commission, you have to have land use and appeal authorities. You have additional authority that makes subdivision appeals. It's a little bit different than what the statute used to be. And then you have to have a general plan and a process for considering land use applications. The general themes of LUDMA, as you know, in the state of Utah, favor property rights over the city's right to regulate. But once a land use ordinance is written and established, it's binding. It's binding on the landowner, it's binding on the city. They have to be plainly written. If there's a question of interpretation, it always cuts in favor of the developer. Process matters. If you establish a process, you're obligated to follow part of the process that the city challenges. There are 3 different types of decisions that are made, and you have the city council that can legislate. Your land use authority is split between the planning commission and the group that now reviews subdivision applications. There are a few things that come to the city council as a land use authority as well, where you're in permits. In South Weaver, you're acting as a land use authority. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this graphic, but you'll have it with you. It's helpful to understand when you're acting legislatively, when you're acting administratively. Function. And the reason it's important is when you're acting administratively, you have to have evidence on the record to support decisions. And I'll talk a little bit about why that's important in a second. When you're acting legislatively, you have to follow certain processes, but you consider any policy consideration that's important. Ordinances can be challenged by lawsuit or referenda, so you have the authority to legislate, but the general population within the city also has the ability to legislate through referenda. If there's a lawsuit, there are 4 different bases for challenge. If you don't follow the right process, if you violate the Constitution, federal or state law, challenge to what you do. A referenda can be for reason. There are time constraints on referenda. There's a signature gathering petition requirement. It's quite an onerous standard to overcome, but is there and has to be followed before. Procedural challenges. We talked about this a little bit, but if you have procedures in place, you have to follow them. If there are challenges to state required procedures, it typically is the notice requirement. Followed in the right way. Constitutional challenges tend to relate to due process, equal protection, and takings. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. It's kind of lawyer legalese, and I'll advise you as we're going through it. But there are different levels of constitutional review, different decisions that have a different standard. But what I hope you'll remember is when you're legislating, you want to try to pick the legislation that is most specific and precise to the problem that you're trying to solve. And generally, that steer clear of these constitutional challenges. Court standards, strict scrutiny that's a hard word like that I apparently is whenever you have a fundamental right at issue, the court will apply the highest standard. They have a lesser standard for things that are for governmental objective but don't affect those rights. And then you have rational basis, and this is what you see on most lands. But as long as you have a policy basis that's on the record and articulable, then you stand most of these challenges. Legislative and administrative, again, you have to have evidence on the record for an administrative decision. Defended, if it's legislative, as long as it's reasonably debatable, courts will defer to court judgment. That's the legislative, not substitute. A few quick notes on ethics, and then we'll talk about how they relate to some of these standards. The Ethics Act in Utah, in most circumstances, requires disclosure, not recusal, but you do have to make annual disclosures and then update those disclosures if circumstances change. The Act establishes the minimum standards, so they're often, if you seek my advice, I'll tell you the Act requires this. It's the minimum standard, but I'd recommend something different. That's because public expectation tends to be quite different. You may not get into legal trouble or expose yourself to criminal penalties or other types of against you or the city, but the public perception could be particularly. And I want to try to advise you to protect people. The Act sets up a disclosure system for conflicts of interest, and then it talks about the crimes you can now commit as a public officer or four things to be aware of. You're privy to information that's private, controlled, or protected, and can be used at times for economic value. You cannot use that information in those ways. You can't use your public office to get privileges, either for economic gain or for other reasons. One you always see in the papers is somebody that gets pulled over and said, you cannot knowingly receive, accept, take, seek, or solicit a gift of substantial value or of substantial economic benefit. And if somebody is paying you to help them get city approval on a matter, you have very strict disclosure on it. So there's two types of disclosures that are required if you have a regulated business or you're doing business with the city. You have a personal interest or investment that relates to city activity, or you're conducting on a city transaction, you have to make a written disclosure. Pay careful attention to the asterisks. If you are helping somebody with a city transaction, those disclosures have to take place 10 days before the agreement with the city or 10 days before receipt of compensation, whichever. And then any of those four things on the left, you also have to make an oral disclosure during the meeting. Recusal is not required, but disclosure is. Gifts, there are some exceptions. If it's an occasional non-pecuniary gift of less than $50, you are able to accept that. If it's an award for your service, you can accept that. If it's a bona fide loan, either ordinary course of business or it's a political campaign contribution, accept that. A word of warning on political campaign contributions, it is worth running the traps on those. If you have somebody approach you to make a donation, I think it's a good practice to see whether they have any business pending for the city. Example here from a UTA trustee that accepted a $10,000 contribution in a rural race, not a race at all that related to the UTA business. It was not a prohibited contribution because it was a campaign contribution. You have to follow all the campaign rules. But this individual didn't have a major project pending. Transitory, and so the appearance was more like receiving that campaign contribution.
What is peculiar?
Monetary. Again, another point of caution that sometimes something may be a permitted behavior, but the appearance can be different. Public will draw its own conclusions. So you will. There are criminal penalties under the act. They're based on the dollar value of what you receive. There's also a requirement of dismissal from employment or removal for certain violations and transactions with the city leaders. Found that out. Okay, a few points of discussion, and this mostly relates to, well, a little bit of ethics and a little bit of values. So the first is your spouse owns a real estate development company. That company has a rezone application pending with the city council. What do you do? When you hit it on the head, so make your disclosures. I'll probably recommend in that kind of circumstance recusal. You're not required to recuse, but make sure that you check with me and make those. You attend church with a longtime friend who's developing his family's property. He stops by your home for a friendly visit the evening before the city council is to act on his application to rezone his property. Friendly visit. Yeah.
You ask you to watch TV and not talk about it.
I think a really helpful instruction on things like this is to just stop the individual and say, look, I have an obligation to keep an open mind until all the information. If it were other than a rezone and an administrative decision, you could also tell them, I have to receive the information on the record. It doesn't help you and it doesn't help me. Sidebar conversation. Let's talk during the council.
But if it's not a rezone,
yeah,
or it's just a discussion on your opinion on something, is that okay?
You'll have to apply some judgment there that often. If it turns to a point where they're saying, you know, can you help grease the scales and get something through, let that be a red flag. Yeah, I think if it's a general conversation of how does the city handle this, or who do I talk to? You have constituents, and I think it's okay to help them understand how to. Last one, a developer's applied to rezone property in the city. You're not familiar with the property or the neighborhood. The developer invites you to visit the property for a tour with other members of the city council. What do you do? What do you have to think about in this circumstance? Okay, how many are coming? Do we have a quorum? The other thing you may want to think about is what the application entails, and if it does entail things where you have to bring evidence forward to the meeting, you can make a site visit. I would recommend it not be with the developer, but be on your own. But be sure that what you observe and what you see when you make the site visit is reflected in the record. So come to the meeting and say, I wasn't familiar with the site. I wanted to see the slope and get a sense for traffic and some of the other things that we might need to think about. here's what I saw. And then communicate that on the record. If you take pictures, put the pictures into the record, make sure you document that activity in a way. The record then becomes defensible as something that we support, challenge. And that is it. Any questions or additional discussion?
I'm done. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, let's quickly go through committee reports. Anybody? Let's start with Wayne, and we'll just work on down the row here.
We have not had any committees report, although I would like to ask staff to get a finance schedule as possible. We have 4 items to discuss, not including. The other item I brought to you.
Yeah, we talked. About it.
I'm sorry, Wayne, can you lean into your microphone and then say that again?
Yes, I can lead it. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Do you want me to repeat that?
So you're requesting a meeting with who?
I asked staff to schedule an admin finance committee meeting as we have 4 standing agenda items, not including the budget.
Okay.
Jeremy.
Nothing new to report yet. I've also asked David's assistance in getting the public safety committee going, as well as I plan to meet with Blair to get caught up on everything else. So hopefully I'll have something next time.
Okay, Joel.
So far, we haven't had the Parks and Rec committee meeting yet, but we did get a number of good presentations from them on the retreat that we had. The code committee, we've actually changed it to now where we will have 1 meeting a month instead of the 2. I'm not sure how that will work out with some of the bills that need to go through pretty quickly, but we're going to go on and try that for now. So our first meeting will be on the 23rd, 27th. So that's it.
Okay. So we discussed a little bit on this bundling program up at the landfill with the recycling program, I guess I should call it. And we had a meeting last week, board meeting up there, and they tried to rescind the resolution that was made on approving this bundling, and it was defeated. So the bundling program will take effect. It has to be implemented by July of 2025. So we've got a little bit of time. The people at the district says that they will come to a city council meeting and present it, which we're going to do in March. So we'll have them come and present that. And that might be good, Shaylee, to when we know when that meeting is, to maybe advertise that on our sign and invite everybody to come that wants to learn and hear about the recycling program. Probably would help. They did say they had quite a presentation. They said, you know, one of the main reasons that we're wanting to do this is because of the landfill is getting full, and they're trying to stretch that out as much as they can for as long as they can. They said once, and this was interesting, that's why I wrote it down, but they said once that is full and we turn that from a landfill into a transfer station, everything gets transferred to the landfill that we own. We're part of with, I think, 7 or 8 other cities, but it's down on the other side of the lake, and on the other side of Tooele, 100 miles. I think, one way. Anyway, that our costs will triple in doing that. So what it's costing now to run that program will triple when we get to that point. So that's one of the main reasons that they're trying to get this going. And I think that's it.
So,
Angie?
just clarification, the bundling with landfill is saying that all cities have to enforce a recycling program by July of 2025?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, they are going to allow the cities to tweak that a little bit and work their own ideas, but that's pretty much like, if we have one of the mayors brought up, well, the only problem that I have is if I've got an elderly lady in the town that she barely puts a little bit of garbage in her regular can, why would she have to, do the recycling? And they says, no, cities can set their own program up to where people like that can opt out. It would not be part of the program, so we can kind of control that.
So that would be something the Municipal Utilities Committee would need to come up with a policy or, okay, to present to council. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. My only report is, well, no, I won't report. I'll let Dave report on that. I have no report.
Water.
You don't want to do municipal utilities?
You're the chair.
Okay. That's a little joke, sorry. Municipal Utilities Committee met last Wednesday to get construction update and to give everyone here an update. And I don't want to didn't want to put Brandon on the spot, but I tried to get a hold of him. I couldn't get him. He was trying to get the full site plan to Valley Design tomorrow. So the earthwork and utilities can go out for bid. Hopefully we'll have a bid back on that by March 1st, roughly that first week of March. So the council is aware, when we originally put the packages together with Brandon for estimating costs and our bond and all of that, we were going to have the asphalt, curb and gutter and landscape in that price. It will not be in that price. It will probably be either a separate package or in the building itself price. So what we will be coming back to committee or to the council for approval will be the bids on just the dirt work and the utilities to the site within 5 feet of the building pads. So, but progress is coming along. The building plans have been kind of checked off and approved for giving to the rest of the sub-trade engineering. So hopefully by mid-March, we can present a full plan. Or sooner.
Do we expect the cost to change from when it was originally approved? And was that, I'm just out of the loop a little bit, so sorry if this is already known.
So, I mean, costs always change, obviously, but we do have contingency built into that budget. We're actually hoping that some of them, because there's more bidders on some things right now, that they won't go crazy like they have in the past. So that's kind of why we're pushing to get things moving forward. But we are a little behind schedule and we're trying to figure out how to make that up. That's why we didn't want to delay this package to go out now.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Anything I missed?
No, you just bring up the idea of schedule. I think we had a conversation very frank with the contractor about what is our new schedule based on some of the delays in design and whatnot. And while their original bid and the original hope was to be in the building by the end of this year, it's much more likely that it'll be springtime of next year. The timeline we're at. Managing expectations, keeping everybody in the loop as far as that came out of the Wednesday meeting as well. Where are we at and what really is the expected? You probably saw or have seen that the Planning Commission meeting for February was adjusted a little bit. It's moved back to February 22nd. Part of that is the approval process for the public works facility, right? It's going to go through the same site plan process that any development in the city would go through. So that is going before the Planning Commission later this month and will turn around to the city council probably the first meeting of March.
Your statement poses a question in my mind. If the contractor is coming back and saying he's going to be a little later, was there a substantial completion date in the original contract? And if so, have we added a change order to amend the no-cost change order to change the substantial completion date to what he's now advertising and not get stung down the road with added costs if we don't do it now?
We didn't talk specifically about doing the change order on
you need to get it documented. If he's changing the substantial completion date, your liquidated damages might come into play, and he doesn't want to have those, so it relieves that from him and also manages expectations, so.
And I think they're waiting for when we get the actual construction set. So because they have an idea, their frame of construction hasn't changed. Our time frame of design and getting it to them. Yeah, and just so you know, the reason why I haven't come up with a new date is because they won't commit to a new date until we get those final drawings.
So there wasn't a true.
Okay.
There was an expectation of 10 months from,
Okay, there wasn't a date certain. There was a
No.
time frame. Thank you.
Yeah, but just so everybody knows, so that everybody's in the loop too, though, the plans are into the point where they can now start dealing with the building manufacturer, starting to get building products ordered, transformer ordered, those long lead time items are moving down the line. So. Anything else? Andy?
Nope, that's
Okay.
Okay.
And then to Michael's questions really quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Zoning is still city council, I believe. But planning commission is doing the site plan reviews, and that was part of that bill that was enacted that moved it to the planning commission. And we have not put a timeline on the general plan. Yet. It is coming up. We're getting there. Unless I can avoid it.
Dave? You have anything?
I know, I didn't even tell him. I just wanted to give a shout out to Shaylee. So, because it's events committee, she did a fantastic job. Do you have anything you want to say about it? It was so great. Our daddy-daughter Valentine's
Tell 'em how many
event.
people were there.
Yeah, tell them. Toot your horn.
Oh, okay. So last Saturday was our annual daddy-daughter date, and we had a total attendance of 396 people. That's dads and daughters, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot more than what we were expecting for sure, but the only thing we really ran out of was food, and we fixed that problem really quick. So the activities were great. I think everyone had a good time. The pictures were a lot of fun to go through, and they're posted on our Facebook page. So just a lot of fun. So
I heard a lot of good feedback from people saying how amazing it was. And a lot of people were posting things. And one comment was, South Weaver is simply the best. And I was like, oh, we are. Thanks, Shaylee.
oh, I love that.
Yeah, good job, Shaylee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shaylee. That was great.
I would only add that Shaylee's taken the lead and really been the engine for these community events, but Maureen stepped up, her husband came and helped out, other members of staff and tried to support and Kenna was volunteering and spent some really good time there and made a big difference. So it really is community building community, and it's cool to see everybody that's helping out. And, Shaylee's lead it's clear and obvious, and thanks to everybody who supported it.
Great. Okay, appreciate it. So with that, we need to move into a closed session. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn and reconvene in a closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. No, we'll stay here. We just lock the door, kick Paul out and lock the door.
You said kick me in the gut, out door.
Let's take Karen's chair.
I was gonna switch it with yours to both of them left.
Uh-oh, it's too late.
No, there's a snake over on one, so we were trying to kill it. I know you don't like snakes.